Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. I'm the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. I'm Senior Minister here at FUS, and we're so glad you're here. I'm joined today by Music Director Mike Vasich, by our keyboardist, keyboardist Amos Lucidi. Thanks for being here, Amos. Blew us away last week. We'll let you be untethered again in a week or two, I think. So we'll be seeing some more fireworks from the piano, and looking forward to that. And our FUS Cellist Choir. Welcome. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks to our AV team, we do have one of our head AV people in the hospital today with a new baby, as I will be talking about in a little bit. Yes, just hold your horses and you too can see a picture. I would like for you, if you're okay with that, to look to your right and to your left this morning and say, I'm glad you're here today. Because we are glad you're here. So thanks so much for being here. First Unitarian Society is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. Yeah, that's a very long name. What it means is we are an intentionally and radically inclusive congregational humanist community dedicated to fostering a free search for knowledge and meaning. We strive for justice and to serve one another. We are so glad you're here today, and we have been practicing, in case you don't know us, congregational humanism since 1916. As the words of the first Humanist Manifesto say, we strive for a shared life in a shared world. There is lots going on in this new month of November. This coming Friday evening, I will be presenting the first of 3 men's lectures in Boston. The first lecture is Friday night, November 11th, and you can sign up for watching on Zoom if you don't happen to be in the Boston area this coming Friday evening. And we're very glad for you to show up. I'll be speaking from First Church Boston, and you know there's First blah blah, First blah blah, but First Church Boston is a little different because it was the first church in Boston. Opened in 1630, opened by a fellow by the name of John Winthrop, most famous for saying that Boston and this new country would be a city on a hill. He also said democracy is the meanest form of government, and I'm going to hold him account for that, just since he invited me over. RSVP today, Strategic Planning for Equity at FUS. That's going to be coming up on Saturday, November the 12th. 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Lower Assembly Hall. Let Rev Kelly know if you're planning to come, and all are invited to this important workshop presented by the Moving Toward Equity team here at FUS, and Dr. Ann Phibbs of Strategic Diversity Initiatives help shape how our humanism draws everyone into the circle of life. Our theme for November is change, and today I'll be considering those times when change gives us a flood. You can keep up with many activities at First Unitarian Society by subscribing to our electronic communications. Just go to our website, firstunitarian.org, and look at the bottom, and you can sign up for various things. If you have any trouble signing up, just email office@firstunitarian.org. And if you don't get something, check the spam folder. Also, social media loves pictures. If you catch something today in your phone, send it to me, minister@firstunitarian.org. If you don't want to be in any pictures, also email me, minister@firstunitarian.org, and we'll be sure that does not happen. After assembly today, if you're in our building, join us downstairs. And today is Cinnamon Roll Sunday. So, cinnamon rolls and some savory snacks. Proceeds go to benefit our OWL program, Our Whole Lives, which we are in the process, we hope, of expanding. So, join in, eat something, and send some money toward our OWL offerings. Also, while you are downstairs, our membership coordinator, Tialana Hunter, will be taking pictures. And if you don't have a picture in Breeze, our database, which you probably don't know if you do or don't, sometimes we snag them off Facebook, etc. But we probably don't have your picture, and Tialana will be there to take your picture, give her your name, and we will get your smiling or frowning face into our database so we know what you look like. Also, get one of these. Even if you took the August Congregational Survey of Interests, pick up one of these. You may have new interests, and there are new things on the form. So put your name up there at the top and how best to find you, and then look at the many activities. We used to have an in-person activity fair. It's a little complicated these days, so we're just going to do it this way, but be sure to pick that up. That'll be right inside the back door by the bookstore. And when you put your name and put this into the basket, you will be entered into a $50 gift certificate at our bookstore. You say, what bookstore? It's not open. Well, you know what? That's one of the things on the form. So, by golly, you too can participate in our activity fair. And I look forward to learning what you're interested in. And yes, there is space, because I know Unitarian Universalist Humanists have other ideas. Have an idea and write it right there. At 12:15 today in the Dietrich, I will be doing Talk of the Talk. Stop on by and discuss anything that you would like that the talk today brings up for you. We are so happy you are here today.
We are in this month of November, which our theme is generally around change. So this first piece is a piano piece I wrote several years ago, and it's kind of a travel piece about going northbound, whatever that means. But I have a trio called Orange Mighty Trio, and we wrote a whole album themed around infrastructure, and and the impetus there is it was basically a modern take on travel and on life, and it was kind of how inspired by a lot of folk music over the last hundreds of years were about rivers and roads and bridges, and so it was kind of a modern take on the idea of what does infrastructure music sound like today. So that's sort of from cycle of songs. And then we have two pieces with the Chalice Choir today. We're going to be doing a piece by a contemporary composer named Rollo Dilworth, who's a really wonderful composer, African-American, does a lot of spiritual arrangement. This is actually a setting of a Langston Hughes poem. So the text is around protecting the dreamers. So the necessary thing of keeping dreams alive, and we need dreamers to think of changes, and we need to protect those who dream. So that's the first piece, and then the closing piece is by our own Bob Dylan, Minnesota's own, and Blowin' in the Wind, an old classic, and just kind of about the transience of time and how we're all just here and not here, and the cycles of everything. So that's just some background information about the music today, and starting here with Northbound.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Each week we light our chalice and think about one of our UU connection in the here and the now. Start singing, right? And there you go. That's not exactly how it works anymore. We have about 4 people involved in everything we do nowadays. But, welcome to the more complicated contemporary life that we live. First Unitarian Society is a unicorn, for those of you who are seeing it for the first time, perhaps. It was built by and for people like you. What are people like that? Well, someone who can say, I'm an atheist, and someone who can say, well, I'm a pagan, and someone, and etc. We are here for a free way of thinking and a free conscience. We stick to the humanist message because we see it as a way to address and honor all religious traditions. This is indeed a special place, and it stays here because of the generosity of our members and friends in time and talent and in treasure. We are an independently funded and democratically governed congregation. One way you can help is by sending those social media pictures to us, like things that you see on the various platforms. But none of what we do here is free. We need your help in order to stay healthy. The easiest way to give is to go to our website, First Unitarian. after assembly today. Thank you so much for keeping First Unitarian Society a healthy place. And no, we don't pass the basket these days. We're waiting for that sort of all clear of the pandemic. When is that going to happen? We've been waiting since March of, okay. Well, anyway, thank you so much for taking that little extra bit and doing that for us. First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community. Yes, we freely search for knowledge and meaning and purpose, and we are here for the wider world. We are take a moment to respect the human condition. We are here for each other. A sorrow this morning, longtime FUS member Helen Thompson, 100 years old, died this past week. You remember we celebrated her 100th birthday back over the summer. Helen Thompson died at age 100. She was our oldest Zoom member. She watched every Sunday and got on Zoom. And may we all be so technically literate when we're 100 years old. A joy, Amy Hagar. All right, a lot of guys my age are named David, though, so maybe you want to, who knows, but congratulations to them. Now we take a few moments to reflect on our world and those who work to comfort and heal the suffering in our world and who work for justice. If you've lost a cell phone, Tim, our building manager, has it, so you can, if you realize that, just go to our office. We have it for you.
Bring me all of your dreams, you dreamer.
Lovely, lovely. Well, we have a responsive reading this morning. It's 6:55 in the book. Change alone is unchanging. Yes, you guys won't be able to see it very well, will you? But I will read. Okay, good. Okay, well, and if you will read the bold part then. Whosoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details.
Knowledge is not intelligence.
In searching for the truth, be ready for the unexpected.
Change alone is unchanging.
The same road goes both up and down.
The beginning of a circle is also its end.
Not I, but the world says it. All is one.
And yet everything comes in season.
Thank you. And we will now sing our children to class. Our theme for November is the path of change. Today, I want to consider what happens when the path of change floods out. Those of you who have spent some time here in the Midwest know how it works here. There's a cause and effect relationship in the Mississippi watershed. It rains a whole bunch, and then creeks and rivers begin to flood, and that makes sense, doesn't it? Rain equals flood. Now think about the desert Southwest. The cause and effect of lots of rain equals flooding there. Yes, but the logic doesn't always work. Sure, lots of rain leads to flooding, but floods also come when there isn't a cloud in the sky anywhere. And that takes some getting used to for us Midwesterners. In arid terrain, there are a lot of low water crossings. These are in rural areas, yes, but also in urban areas. The creeks are so shallow and there is so seldom any water anywhere that low water crossings often get installed rather than spending lots and lots of money on roads or big bridges over things. So you can drive all over Minneapolis and never even realize you're driving over water. But sometimes you are. That costs money. These usually have flood gauges so that people can see how deep the water is. And a rhyming phrase that you hear in weather reports in the Southwest is a very important reminder. Turn around, don't drown. But it seems like every time the creeks flood, someone does drown. Now, why? Well, of course, for one thing, floodwater can come sweeping in on a perfectly sunny day, as I said. There's so little topsoil in arid climates, so rain simply has nowhere to go but down really quickly. A rain 20 miles away can send a flood sweeping through the dry creek beds. Sometimes people simply don't see the floodwaters coming, and that's why there are also signs that say, "Do not camp in dry creek beds." There are lots of anecdotal stories about sudden flooding and people grabbing and climbing into the tops of trees to save themselves. But most people die in flooding due in the low water crossings. Often people drown because they don't turn around. The threat is clearly present. You see those flood gauges up to 5, 6, 8 feet. Clearly, there's some danger going on here, but a lot of people drive into the rushing water. Why? Sure, rushing water doesn't look as dangerous and as powerful as it is. But there's also this human propensity that all of us know probably a little too well. We don't want anything messing with our plans. Sure, people say, I know this is dangerous, but I've got plans. Nothing can mess with my plans. It's human nature, and it gets people killed. That propensity to hold on despite evidence is one of the things I want to think a little bit about today. Another is that good old-fashioned idea of memento mori, remembering death. The phrase, Lord willin' and the creeks don't rise, has become a cliche even among people who don't traditionally say those things, but hillbillies like me do. It's kind of like knock on wood. It's a statement with a little bit of superstition to it, but, we don't really think about it. But Lord willin' and the creeks don't rise is not a joking matter among people who take Christian scriptures fundamentally. The practice arises from 2 verses in the book of James from Christian scripture. They go like this. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town and spend a year there doing business and making money, yet you do not even know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wishes, we will live and do this or that. Origin of the phrase, Lord willin' and the creeks don't rise. It's become a cliche, but many people were and still are very serious about saying some version of, if the Lord wishes, we will live and do this or that. It's a way of expressing absolute dependence upon the will of the God as God is understood in Christian scriptures. It's a way of confirming an understanding of the question asked in that biblical verse, what is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. It's a statement of ephemerality, of trust and dependence upon the will of a God. And at least in an ideal sense, it's an announcement of a willingness to turn around rather than choosing to power through the flood, no matter what, on the basis of our human wishes. Yes, it is human nature to make plans and then breathlessly and often thoughtlessly pursue those plans, no matter what. But the wisdom of the ages tells us that rushing in despite the flood is a very bad idea for your health, both physical and mental. Turn around, don't drown, because remember, you are a mist. I think an old Zen proverb sums it up best of all. Let go or be dragged. A very old Zen proverb. Let go or be dragged. I can't think about flooding without thinking of the famous line from the philosopher Heraclitus. You cannot step into the same river twice. Heraclitus continued that thought with an explanation of what he meant. For it is not the same river, and you are not the same person. Now, this is even a more radical statement than the more common phrase, you can't go home again. Yes, you can follow the logic Heraclitus sets up, for it is not the same home and you're not the same person, but it's more radical because Heraclitus is suggesting a step and then an immediately following step. Not much time has passed. It's not like growing up in a house and then going back when you're an adult and realizing that everything is smaller than you remember. No, Heraclitus is talking about constant change from one moment to the next. Change that we ourselves have perhaps not even noticed. A step and then another step immediately. That, Heraclitus is saying, is the nature of our realities. It is constant change. In sculpture and painting, Heraclitus is usually portrayed as the weeping philosopher. He can be mistakenly seen as praying in these various kinds of artistic enumerations because he has this bowed head. He's not praying, he's weeping. Tradition says that he had an extremely melancholic personality. By the way, Democritus, who was the philosopher who postulated the existence of atoms, is called the laughing philosopher. So apparently it's more happy to discover atoms than change. Heraclitus was born in Ephesus, which is now a part of Turkey. He died in the late 400s before the Common Era. The reading we did earlier is a collection of fragments. It's not actually a poem in the traditional sense. We have only fragments of the writing of Heraclitus because early Christians didn't like the way he was thinking very much, and so they did not preserve his writings. Yet the fragments that we do have stood the test of time. Some of what we read earlier, whoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details. You gotta really look. In searching for the truths, be ready for the unexpected. Change alone is unchanging. The same road goes both up and down. Beginning of a circle is its end. Not I, but the world says it all. All is one, and yet everything comes in a season. And yes, no one can step in the same river twice. It's not the same river, and it's not the same person. Heraclitus was onto something being explored by philosophers in other regions of the world, but not so much in the Mediterranean world of his time, the world that later became Christendom. So, let's look at the elements we have here. Firstly, we have the very human propensity to grasp and hold on to things, whether that be the itinerary of a trip we're taking or holding on to the people we love. Secondly, we have the ephemerality of human life. We're here today and gone tomorrow, like a mist. Traditional Christianity teaches that despite all appearances, there is a God in charge. And not only that, but this changeable reality we live in is only half the story. There is an unchangeable, indeed eternal reality beyond what we can see. Heraclitus believed that this reality that we see is the only one. And he believed that the material cosmos is eternal, the implication being that no gods had to ever create it, and no gods are involved in keeping it going. Whether or not he was correct on the point of the eternal cosmos, Heraclitus' thinking was unlike the mythologies in which particular gods create the earth, and then there are reasons for what you do. In an uncreated cosmos, no gods are required to make it, and it does not require any gods to keep an eye on its operation. The whole cosmos is merely here. In which case, yes, the creeks will rise and water will flow and flood, and yes, we are ephemeral creatures. Our lives could even be described as a mist. But in this vision of reality, there is no will of any God to be appeased or appealed to. Rather, we human beings are on our own, and we only have each other. Heraclitus saw a different reality from that of his Mediterranean contemporaries. Yes, the creeks rise and water flows. Yes, we are a temporary mist in terms of our lives. And yes, we are on our own. Therefore, we have a lot of work to do. We must know about the world and its particular details because that is all that exists. Also, therefore, we must search for truth in the natural world itself. Truth isn't written in any books inspired by any gods, and change alone is unchanging. Therefore, we find apparent contradictions when we begin to look around. Roads do go both ways. Circles do end and begin in the same spot. And in the thinking of Heraclitus, there is no material world versus a spiritual world. All as he says, is one. And we can see and even sometimes predict change by watching this particular thing we call time or duration. Everything comes in a season, time, duration. In order to discuss and potentially understand this concept of change, we have to have a concept of time and what that means. One thing happens before another thing. Duration and change is why you can't step into the same river twice. The water continues to flow. The very temporary biological entity we call people continues to flow and change. No, let's forget about questions of degree and consider two options here to think this through a little bit. One option, Heraclitus is wrong. There is another world, an eternal world, and it's non-chaotic, and we can't see it, but it's there. Or Heraclitus is right. All we have is this world in its chaotic change, a world we can navigate more safely by watching the details. Heraclitus, born 400 years before Christ, and James, who was writing a little bit into our common era, agree on 2 points about our reality. You do not even know what tomorrow will bring. They both agree on that one. And what is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. That's observable, isn't it? What each of us does about those facts contrasts two ways of living in our world. One, trust that there is an unseen reality and order to the cosmos and do what you can to appeal and appease it, whatever that unseen reality is. Or two, trust what we observe of our reality and adapt to what we see. Traditional Christianity says there is an unseen reality. Unitarian Universalism, being creedless, you work it out for yourself. And we humanists say, you see it, love the details. It's all we got. As for me, I choose humanism, and that's kind of why. By way of concluding, I do want to go back, however, to that old Zen saying, let go or be dragged. That good advice works for driving into floodwater. Let go or be dragged. Turn around, don't drown. That good advice also works for any plans you might be making, doesn't it? Let go or be dragged. Let go of those plans if need be. Sunk costs are sank, right? Sunk costs are sank. Let's go on with what we've got and make the best of it. That good advice also applies to wishes we might have for life to be otherwise. Oh, why wasn't I born rich and good looking? Let go or be dragged. That good advice also works for all of life's regrets, I think. Let go or be dragged. And what happens when we do let go and love this world of change as we actually see it? Well, look around you here in this congregation, and you will see a whole bunch of people who have let go of those traditional assumptions. Sure, goals are important for adequate and informed exploration. You got to have goals. The ability to let go, however, is equally important. Again, Heraclitus was on to something. Roads go both ways. Circles begin where they end. There is no material world versus a spiritual world. It is all one. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a while and then vanishes. So, come on, mists. Let's grasp for the good, let go when it's time, and let's enjoy the change. Let's let go and run free.
And rise as you are able and join us in singing number 301 in the gray hymnal or follow along on the screen.
if you will repeat with me, please, our extinguishing the chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. Go out into the world. Be fearless. Ask questions. Hold on to what is good. Strengthen the weak. Comfort the fearful. Serve the suffering. Do what makes you come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit. So may it be.
He bangs that piano too much.
Our 18-year-old is Bree's stepdaughter. She's not good. Even though we never see her, she's a senior in high school taking college classes. And she's sort of did figure skating. And then she skates 5 days a week. She coaches skating 2 days a week and then she works in a restaurant. So she doesn't hang out as much as she used to. Well, I know. Years ago, our daughter Brenna, who's now 30, said, "Oh, it's not good for kids to have so many activities. They should just play." I said, "Would you like it if we had given up soccer and piano and French on Girl Scouts?" And she said, "No."